Hey everyone, welcome back to the Face Off Figures channel. I'm Thatch, and I'm here to review the Secret Wars Brown Suit Wolverine Marvel Legends 6-inch scale action figure. This guy, I'm a little late to the party, I'm not gonna lie to you. He came out a good while ago, and I'm sure a lot of people are like, wow, I've had this figure for 6 months now, and now you're reviewing it. But I just got him recently, and I'm kind of trying to find a figure to get back into this with a little bit, following my good buddy Aiden's most recent video. And I've just been messing with this guy a lot, so I thought that maybe he'd be a great guy to kind of do a review with, kind of come back with. So yeah, also pardon like if there's some technical hiccups or setup things. I am adapting my animation studio to a product review studio for this, so I hope things work out okay, but I'm still kind of learning out how to do that properly. So anyway, here we go. Here's our guy. This guy, he came out recently, and he is meant to be derived from the Secret Wars action figure line as well as the comic book. And so there's some sort of discussion about some of the decisions they made there we'll get into, but just because in spirit of face-off figures, I think we kind of like to have a lot of the reference material here. Here is just a piece of art of the guy in Secret Wars. This book was actually given to me by Aiden, which is really nice. And this is the cover of the issue where Peter Parker whoops the X-Man single-handedly and then pieces the heck out, and it's hilarious. So yeah, this suit was kind of made as an alternative to Wolverine's more iconic costume in the 80s. They kind of wanted to spice things up. As far as I'm aware, there isn't quite a lot of like massive significance to it. It's pretty much just an alternate look. It's been brought back several times in the comics, and most recently it was obviously in Deadpool and Wolverine. Quick little cameo, looked fantastic in it. And yeah, it's pretty much Wolverine's second most iconic costume, I would say. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Maybe I'm dead wrong. Not an X-Men super buff. Now, my first introduction to this suit is actually in a much less epic piece of media. Back in my day, the Superhero Squad was a really big deal, and they had a Nintendo DS Superhero Squad game that was basically like a Smash Brothers ripoff. And Wolverine's alternate costume, as you can see here, is that brown suit. Here he is twitching like a little dog. And yeah, this is, I think, more of the modern version of the suit as opposed to this one. But yeah, this was my first introduction of it, and I always thought it was pretty badass in the game. And so I've always kind of had a bit of an attachment to it whenever it showed up again after the game, and other stuff. But yeah, that game was sort of like, they only had one alternate costume in that Superhero Squad DS game, so it kind of gave you the impression as a kid that, man, they only have one costume to choose from. It must be a pretty big one. It must be the second biggest costume. So this guy is both inspired by the Secret Wars comic book, but even more so, I believe, the Secret Wars action figure line, which ironically is actually why the comic book existed. It existed to sell action figures. This is more inspired by that action figure. So that's where a lot of the frustration I've noticed online comes from with this guy, is the decisions to make it closer to the Secret Wars figure than the Secret Wars comic. And so, one of those biggest is the color of brown, which is more of like a burnt orange color than it is like a true brown. And then also the strip here in the middle being less thick, less of a center column, and more of a very thin like line. And I think that kind of changes again in the comics. It's more so it's more of a thicker centerpiece than it is like this really thin like strip going down there. I really hope that doesn't go all the way down, because now that's kind of like a pick your poison scenario. It's really gonna depend on your whatever you think, your cup of tea there, if you mind or not. Me personally, I care I guess I would have liked it to be more of the darker brown, but I truly don't mind this look at all. I think it still sells the overall aesthetic of this costume pretty well, so I don't mind it. But yeah, I mean, if it was more brownish, less orangish, I wouldn't say no to that. But overall, I still think, he looks really fun, he looks really cool, and I do think the colors go well together. I also think the orange, or the yellow here, is a bit more of a classic Wolverine yellow than it is like a tannish color, and I seem to think that a lot of people are of the opinion that in the comics it's more tan and less yellow. So I think that those are the frustrations acknowledged. But again, In my opinion, I still think he's a rather fun figure in terms of aesthetics, and I really don't mind it that much at all, but I wouldn't mind it if it were a darker brown. If they re-released him in a darker brown, would I get it? Probably not. I'm not that attached to this costume to do that, but I did want it represented, so yeah. Now, in terms of accessories, this guy comes with a few. So, I think, just to get it out of the way, first and foremost, he comes with one of the Secret Wars shield pieces here. Now, this is one of those holographic shields where if you tip it around, you can kind of see it change. Very silly, very cool, I guess. And it also comes with an alternate card in there that says Secret Wars. I don't have that on me right now, but I really don't think anyone's missing out on that. I don't think anyone really cares about these shields. I think they're kind of cute. They're kind of fun. You can notice, though, that the brown, even here, is a starkly different color than there. Oh, it looks kind of bald there. But, you know, I think these things are funny. I don't mind them at all. I think they're cute. I would rather have more practical accessories than this, which is more of a gimmick accessory. But Legends is really trying out a lot right now, given the state of sales with it. You know, they're doing these shields, and now they're also doing the little tiny comic books. And look, man, none of that is ever going to beat just another pair of hands or another head or more paint. You know, I don't think any action figure collector is going to be like, no, please don't give me open hands. Give me the holographic shield. I don't think anyone is of that opinion. I mean, there's probably one guy and he's like, actually, I love this. It's all anyway. So yeah, and then it of course has the clip. It's very standard Marvel Legends shield. It's got the pin here. He doesn't have a pinhole in his back, so it's kind of useless. But you know, just for the sake of not argument, but just for the sake of thoroughness, here is the shield on the man. And let me zoom out here so you can see. Wow, super dorky. At least the orange here matches his intrinsic color scheme a little bit better because he's super orange. But aside from that, I don't really see much. I don't think anyone's gonna use it. And so yeah, I kind of wish that these had like an option where you could pop this off and then like turn it into like a figure stand that they could stand on. You know, I don't know, man. Is that stupid? Maybe, but at least it would make it more functional. You know. Either way, that's the silly little shield. So get rid of that guy. And the other accessories he comes with. So he obviously comes with fisted hands, which is, standard Wolverine. I think everyone would have been really annoyed if he didn't come with fisted hands. That would be very dumb. So here are the fisted hands. These are the exact same ones from the 97 Wolverine. In fact, this guy is almost an exact pull of that buck. I think the only new sculpt on him are his heads. So we can talk about that more later. But just so you know, these are the exact same fists as the X-Men 97 Wolverine. So there you go. If you love him, hate him, you know what you're getting yourself into. Then he also comes with this head here. Jeez, I'm gotta get used to this zoom. My goodness. He comes with his head here, and look, is the like face printing on it like fine? Like yeah, like it doesn't look like the printing looks good. He's got little cool shadows under his eye. You can really appreciate it better on the camera. Dang, little scruff chin. All the stuff you want from Wolverine. I just think in the sculpt and this like look for the guy is kind of ugly. I don't know if that's just me. I know Wolverine's kind of supposed to be ugly, but this looks more like Sabretooth or something. Not Sabretooth, but like this looks like an old like Toy Biz janky version of like movie Sabretooth from the X-Men Origins Wolverine movie or something like that. Like it doesn't look like Wolverine to me. His hair is kind of small. I don't know, man. Just not my head. I'll throw it on there though for you real quick, so that you can kind of get a better sense of it. All right, there you go. There is the Wolverine head on the Wolverine body, and I also threw on the unclawed hands, the normal fists, just so you get a look for it. I don't know, man. It looks kind of small. It just doesn't really suit what I like in Wolverine, I guess. I don't know, man. And I'm not saying like, I don't know. Just to me, I just think it looks kind of. I just don't like this. This guy just doesn't look. He looks like a Wolverine cosplayer or something. I don't know. It's not Wolverine to me. Yeah, dude. I don't know, man. I love this head. I love this X-Men 97 head. I know maybe it's a hot take. People don't like the animated visuals. I'm an animator. I kind of like a little bit of stylization in my figures. Comic books are inherently stylized, usually, especially of this era. I don't really mind it, man. I think it looks good. Again, the skin tones don't match, but if they just re-released this head with that skin tone and that was his head, I would have been totally happy. I think this Wolverine head is my favorite one by far. All right, so for the articulation, you are looking at the exact same scheme as the X-Men 97 Wolverine. So he's got the ball joint head with the hinge neck, goes that far back, and it goes that far down. Pretty great. Hinge never fails. And then he's got ball joint shoulders. Now he does have the Marvel Legends thing where they do scuff. They are a little tight there. That's been a thing I've been noticing on Legends a lot lately since like 2020. They've been having this issue where their shoulders just scuff and rub and chew away. And, it doesn't really limit the articulation, but it does chew them up. If you're moving those shoulders, they're getting chewy. It's just going to happen. And then you can see how that also affects the paint here. I've been having fun with this guy. I've been messing around with him. And you can see it's already, I've had him for like a week maybe. And look at that, man. So just to be aware, even a little bit of it here, just to be aware it's got that same issue. So if you don't want to screw up your paint, man, don't articulate it. But if you don't mind, but that's kind of like missing out on half the fun. I don't know. I'm a big articulation guy. So yeah, good shoulders. They go past 90, real nice. Butterfly joints. Butterfly joints on this torso have always been good. This is an old freaking torso, and yet the butterfly joints have always been fairly, if you just want to get a good like picture of the axis that we're talking about here, it's all the way to there, all the way to there. That's fairly impressive, man. So great butterfly joints. Love that. Very cool. Weird little thing I did notice on the butterfly joints. The paint on the bottom of the... God, I gotta stop doing that. The paint on the bottom, they're painted on the bottom here, and not here, and then on the back, right? Not painted. Painted. Now I checked the sculpt. They didn't flip my butterflies. These are the accurate butterflies sculpts. They didn't flip them. They just painted it weird. But just worth noting. And then arms, they go all the way, full 360 as one would expect. I think it'd be horrible if they couldn't. Not butterfly. Bicep swivel. Really nice to have that bicep swivel. And then double jointed elbows, which again, they can do that. And then if you just bend this one, you can get a little bit more of a tighter bend there. I don't know how to describe it. It's just the joint, where this axis lies is a little bit deeper in there versus if you do it like this. Does that make sense? So you might actually get a better bend by bending this first and then that. Interesting. Very common thing with action figures nowadays. Forgot to mention that his arm hairs are fully painted, and it looks great. I don't know why they ever don't do that. It always looks weird when they don't, so it's nice. And of course, he's got the normal, I believe this is the horizontal hinge on both hands. Same thing with the claws. It would be really weird if Wolverine didn't have horizontal hinges. And then he's got the same old, reliable ab crunch this Wolverine has always had. So, crunches pretty much fully 90 degrees. Not fully, but pretty close. What is that, like 82 degrees? Pretty damn close. And then back, not as far back, but fairly far forward. That is pretty much the most you could ask for. And then, of course, he's got the waist swivel, and he's got that old Marvel Legends style weird waist swivel where it makes him look like this. We all hate it, but this belt is flexible enough that you can hide it by doing that, which is real nice. I can excuse it when you can do that. Obviously, that has a bit of a breaking point, but still, you can kind of mask it. Nice. I appreciate that. And then the hips, they go all the way out like this. Real nice, real good. And then they go forward like this, back. And he's got the thigh swivel, Eat Your Heart Out Black Series. And then he's got the double jointed elbows. Similar situation, if you bend them here, you might actually be able to get a little bit more if you bend this bottom joint first versus the top one. But yeah, can't quite, oh no, he can kind of kick his butt, pretty close. And then he has a very generous boot swivel. The boot swivel is always really nice. I know some people are like, I don't care about the boot swivel. I like it because it helps you set off the ankle pivot, right? So if your ankle pivot is not 90 degrees, sometimes you bend these ankle pivots, right? And they're looking like this shit. Like they bend like that. And you're like, what the hell am I supposed to do with that? So then you got to adjust it with the boot swivel. That's why the boot swivel is nice, right? Because if your ankle pivot, the axis rotates and it flips it forward. I can't articulate my action. Like what kind of pose, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I think that having the boot cut, this guy are fine, but you can still counter it, right? You ideally want a 90-degree ankle pivot, and having the boot cut allows you to do a 90-degree ankle pivot, which is really what you want. And then, of course, he's got the hinge there, nice Nice old traditional hinge. Doesn't really goes enough far forward. Again, this is nice too to counteract the weight of the figure if this goes forward a little bit more, but it's pretty good. I'd say that's serviceable. And yeah, he's got the little boots sculpted down here. He also got the undies sculpted. Forgot to mention that. That's really nice. Pretty much every suit, even because this is from that 97 figure. Pretty much every piece of cut on the costume is sculpted in there, except for the one in the torso, because it is an old torso. But aside from the undies, that's a sculpt. Even the shoulders, that line there, that's a sculpted cut in the costume there. That's not a paint, like that is in the sculpt. And again, it's very subtle, but even in the hands here, I really like that. Adds dimension to the figure, makes it feel less like just a painted naked man and more like a guy in a costume, you know. So yeah, there's your Wolverine articulation. It's frankly super standard Wolverine articulation, but it's good, it's solid, dependable Wolverine articulation. You know what I mean? There's nothing new, there's nothing fancy here like the Astonishing one, but this works, and it works well, and it looks good, and you can pose him well, and you can stand him well. I like it. All right, so first up on our list of comparisons, we got to compare him to the man, the myth, the legend, your boy, X-Men 97 Wolverine, the best Wolverine Marvel Legends ever made, in my humble opinion. He is pretty much pitch perfect, and this makes me happy. These guys, there's something about a costume that's consistent, and then there's like little tweaks that make you so sad. Like the boots, they're the same boots, and then just seeing them in that different color, it just makes me happy, and I don't know why, but looks good, man. I mean, these are basically the same figure. He has different shoulders. This is a new sculpt, I believe, actually, looking at it. This guy's got some hairy upper shoulders. This guy, they sculpted, not hairy, the costume there. That's kind of a nice little, they didn't need to do that. I'm glad they did that. You know, they could have pulled some baloney out. But yeah, no, these guys look great together. Of course they do. The yellows are closer than you think. They're a little different. This one's a little bit more, this one's a little bit more of a cooler yellow. This one's a bit of a warmer yellow, but they're pretty close. You know, so yeah, cool to see. Really like these guys. Again, they just look great together. So yeah, that's really solid. This is a bit of a random one, but this is the last Wolverine figure that I got, and that is the Spider-Man Fantastic Four 2-pack Wolverine. This is the old version of this body versus the new one. So it's got all the ugly pins, doesn't have the boot cut in it at all. Got these weird ass flat feet, not duck feet, I guess kind of duck feet. I don't know, they look weird. Really kind of bad head in hindsight. I didn't really think about this at the time, but God, he looks like he's like, give me a cherry flavor. You know, so he's fine. He's fun, whatever. But yeah, I think definitely this guy's the better figure. So I don't think anyone really cares about this guy. And then a real old son of a gun here. This dude, ancient. This guy was my Wolverine, my standard Wolverine figure for a good long time. And here we are now. God, he looks like a little freak. This little freaky gremlin. He's like, feed me. Yeah, he's a little freak. This Wolverine. Yeah, so that's that comparison. I don't think anyone asked for that, but there it is. I'm missing a bunch of his claw. I should just make them flip the bird. I hated this shit, by the way. Oh my God. This, obviously I lost them all, but why did anyone think that removing the claws and having these big ass holes in it was a good idea? They had no structure. They were all flimsy, always warped. God, the alternate fist hands with a different sculpt are like so much better. I can't believe that was ever okay. Anyway, let's get this little he looks like an angry chipmunk. Like, oh God. Yeah, so there's that. I mean, there you go. What else could you ask for there? All of my Wolverines. All right, nobody cares. And now moving on to the only other figure that is of course required to compare to this little angry Canadian man, and that is Spider-Man. So we've always compared Spider-Man to figures here on this channel. It's tradition. My boy Aiden, he compared this guy to the last review we did, so I gotta do it. He's much shorter than him. Obviously, you can tell, a lot shorter, which is good. This is a shorter Pete body anyway, so you can imagine that this guy compared to like a Captain America and Iron Man is absolutely a very small man. So yeah, man, there you go. That is pretty much it for the Secret Wars brown suit Wolverine figure. And that's what I'm talking about. You can't do poses like this if the boot cut isn't there, because you need the boot cut to rotate so that you can make that foot run parallel with the ground so that he can stand up. That's what I'm saying. You need the boot cut, man, or you need 90-degree pivot, one or the other. Anyway, great figure overall. I think not like figure of the year, not like the best Wolverine ever made, but a really fun, solid Wolverine. Again, I sympathize with the color complaint. I agree to an extent, but he's just so much fun to mess with that I really don't mind it as much. There's less weight. I really haven't touched my 97 Wolverine that much because I did not want to screw that guy up. This guy I feel comfortable screwing up, and he's got all the works. He's got the much stronger Wolverine body as compared to Ferret Wolverine and Cherry Flavor Wolverine, and I just think it really comes together to make a really solid, decent Wolverine, man. I don't know, if you want this guy, you look at it, I don't think you'll be let down. I think you can determine if the colors aren't your taste by looking at photos, honestly. Like, you can make that decision, and if you're like, hey man, I don't mind it being a little bit more orange, I think you'll be happy with it. But if you do, totally in your power, man. It's your money. I totally understand you wanted to skip this guy, maybe waiting for a darker shade of brown Wolverine whenever that's going to happen. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this review. Thank you so much. We're trying to get back in the swing of things at Face Off Figures. We'll see how it goes. I really appreciate you guys watching, and goodbye.